Well, hi and welcome to Glitch 2600. Who am I? I'm Brian, aka Glitch, your friendly host through all things geekery, and you are here for a Glitch Byte. And that's just our tips and tricks that we can normally consume in under 15 minutes. Sometimes we do go longer and have a megabyte, but in general, that's what our tips and tricks. And today we're going to talk about microphones and more specifically, 3 tips that can help you get better sound out of your USB or XLR microphones. USB or XLR tips, first things first, is just the connector that's on the end. If you see those 3 prongs, those are talking XLR. That's a standard microphone style, and USB are your ones like your Yeti that I'm using over here on the side, snowballs, even the Samsung Q2U, which is a nice $70 to $80 microphone that has both USB and XLR. So if you're getting into podcasting or live streaming, the Samsung, not Samsung, Samson Q2U is a great starter one, but it's more like the handheld style where this is that kind of pod style. So that's just a tell on there. There's some tips we can talk about, phantom power versus non and all that fun stuff. But first things first, we're going to talk about how do you talk to your microphone. We're going to talk about front address versus side address. So you'll notice on here how there's this little band that goes over the top. You can tell really quickly if you're supposed to talk into this end or into this spot by if there's a band in front. If there's a band right there, then obviously it's not made for you to talk into it this way. And some mics are, though. Some mics are made for you to talk into that way. The Rode Pod mic is that way. The Shure, if I remember right, the SMB, it is, this one is a side address. So it won't do any good if I'm talking into it this way. If this was in the scene like this, I will not be getting the best sound. Instead, it would be better for it to be, as you can kind of see the capsule through the light there, it would be better for me to be talking into it this way or upside down. And some people would say, well, I don't want that in the scene. Well, that's fine. It could be turned like this. It'd still be relatively close to me. And, I hear a lot of, well, I don't know that I want the mic in the scene. Really, would this be that distracting? And if it was, then did you ever watch Larry King, Howard Stern, any number of big radio jocks out there? The mic is always in the scene. That's part of the reason why I picked this mic when I got it. I thought it was a neat looking. I don't necessarily need the gold accents. I'm more of a silver. But I get the blackout because I think it looks really cool and it kind of blends in. I don't have to put it right in front of my face. Obviously, if I was to talk this way, that's how it sounds. The reason why I know that is my microphone right here is just out of scene. And it's just like that. It's upside down. And it looks like it's a little low. It's actually up higher. It comes right here to me. And you can tell you can hear me pretty well, probably better as I move in closer and talk more directly into the microphone. But this one is made that way. And that's how I talk into it. So mine is a side address. It's not a front, or we'd be running into that same problem. Probably the best way to kind of show that is if I actually show it. So let me hop into my handy dandy phone here so I can turn around and give you a little preview. So we'll pop this up, flip on over because we can. So we'll flip on over to the iPhone here and you can kind of see that is the microphone I'm talking into. So I'm talking straight into it. So I'm talking into this part right here. Helps if I hold it right here. I'm not talking into the bottom part of this. This is just a Yeti when we'll talk what this is here in a second. But this is a Yeti. I'm not talking into that part as I tap it, and you're probably hearing a little thump, thump, thump. I'm talking into right here. See that? Pop, pop. That's where you're hearing me talk. If I put the phone in front of me, you're probably not hearing me so great. But in general, there you go. That's me talking into it. And you can kind of see. So hopping back around, you can kind of see, there you go, what that looks like and how I'm addressing it. So that is the difference between a top address or side address, is which way you're talking into it. Too often will someone place it on a table and this far away and it's just sitting pointed like that, that's not going to do anything. It would be better for it to be tipped back because they're trying to get it out of the scene. So they're going like this and then putting it so far away. Mine, I don't care if it's in the scene. It's just it's hopped down. My next set will actually have it probably in the scene, and that doesn't bother me. It's in the scene on the other shows I produce. It just happens to be in this set where I'm at right now that the arm I'm using puts it right off to the side. Otherwise, I don't care if it's in the scene. So like I said, the next one I'm reversing that set and it's going to be in a little bit closer. But the closer the microphone is to you, the better it is. But that can be off to the side, as long as there is a little field, of motion that you can do. But in general, that'd be a good way. And you could talk and it would not, cause much issues. And it'd be nice, close enough that you wouldn't have to turn up the gain on the back, which would cut down some of the noise you hear. So again, look for that band. That'll tell you if it's address, top address versus side address normally, unless you're on a Yeti, which has just a rounded kind of ball on the top. So let's talk about the next spot. And we're going to talk about dead cats, foam, and pop filters. So this is just a foam piece. You notice on that end it's a hole that goes right over the top of my Yeti over there. It could essentially kind of go over the top of this microphone if I wanted to. It doesn't look great, but you can kind of get an idea. It can pop over that, and that'll cut out your explosives, your P's, your T's just a little bit. Now another thing you can use is, I've got this handy, I'm taking it out of the box because I don't use it very often, extra little pop filter, this style. So if I wanted to, with this same microphone, I can pop this over the front with these little bands that are on it, and it would just sit over it like that, a little bit closer. I'm not going to stretch the bands over right now and mess with it, because that would just take way too long while we're on the air. And I don't think you guys want to wait while I'm sitting there literally taking those bands off and putting them back on, because you can kind of see where they're at on there. So stretch that out, put it on there. And this filter, it's got some foam in there. This metal will also cut out those explosives, P's and T's and thes and all that fun stuff. Otherwise, you can use something like this, which is a little armed pop filter. So with this one, the filter can still go in front of the microphone, and it just sits there on a little mount arm. You can see it sits there like that, and so it can sit in front of the microphone. You talk into it, and this filter will cut out any explosives, because your P's and T's, the wind hits and it doesn't make it through to the microphone. And the other end just has that little mount that can mount on your stand and any number of things and places just to get out of the way. I don't like those ones because, they're fine, but they get a little cumbersome when you're trying to move them around and all that fun, whatchamacallit. But that's something you can get. The other one that you saw that was on the camera a second ago was more of a what we call a dead cat style. That is its technical term. It's not that anyone went out there and ran over a cat. It just happens to look that when they used to put them on these big blimp microphones, these much longer ones, that when they took this little foam hair thing that cuts out wind and other things, and it can cut out some of those pops and explosives too, that when they set it down on the table, people would walk on and be like, oh my gosh, it's a dead cat. And the name stuck. So they thought it looked like a dead cat, so it became called a dead cat. No cats were killed in the making of a dead cat filter. It's just a style and way you can put it on there. I put mine on there because I was using it in an area that had a little bit more airflow. In this spot, not so much, but when I take this microphone, this Yeti, to another spot, that's what I run into. The next thing that we wanted to talk on is something called a shock mount. So this is a shock mount. You can see all this elastic. It means this thing can move around. So if anything was to hit the table, the microphone's not going to shake a whole lot. So this is the shock mount for the mic you've been looking at. If I mount this puppy in there, See, it just kind of moves and holds it in there. This one is a clamp style. It doesn't screw in like the other one does. But what's nice is if I were to hit the table, instead of hearing it all in the microphone, like when you heard when I flicked on here. So if I flicked on this, you're kind of hearing that. If I banged on the table, normally you would hear that a lot, but I have a shock mount up here on mine. That was the thing it was hanging from upside down. That was a screw-in style, much like this is a screw-in style on the bottom. So the mic screws in through here and then it just hangs. This is a clip style. And so it just sits there in the middle with the microphone free up top, or the back free on top. Sits up here and then you can see it just kind of shakes. So as I shake it, not a whole lot can happen because of these elastic bands. And right there. So it's just basically sitting in bungee. And luckily this microphone comes with extra little bands, which is sweet. I like this microphone. It's the MXL 770, which for the price, it's just amazing. It's $99, but it should be a $180 microphone. It's a Marshall, or an offshoot of Marshall that made it. So those are 3 quick tips that learning where to address your microphone, top versus side, based on look for that band. If there's a band on top, then you don't talk into the band. You talk to the side. If there isn't one on the side, then you probably talk into the top. Difference is the Yeti, obviously that one is a side address and it tells you that. So keep that in mind as you angle it. If you put it on the table, don't put it like that at you. If it's a side address, angle it and get it pointed so that that capsule is in line to your face. And the closer you can get it, the better. Doesn't mean you have to put it this way for a live stream. You can put it to the side and just talk a little bit this way. So that's one. Foam or pop filter, or back to the other dead cat. Another good way to cut out those explosives. And then shock mount. So when you bang on the table like I'm doing right now, everything all around, it doesn't make a ton of noise for your guests. Additional extra tip, one of the things you saw was I had one of these little mounts, clips on, just like an old lamp, and then you can move it all around. And because of that, I'm able to take this microphone here, as you're going to see, and I can just pull it into scene. See? So I can have this in the scene. You can see it in the shock mount right now. It's down a little low, so this is a little bit better. But you can see on that one where I can pull that in there. Here's the shock mount that's helping it not make quite as much sound as I'm doing that to you guys. And I put a little quick, release on here. So I use a fun quick release on the back so that they can just clip so that you can't hardly see. There's a little tab right here and it clips right on there and drops it off. So you can see the other end there. It just clips right in. And then when I want to take it off, I can just, instead of unscrewing everything, I just clip it off, which I think is great. I love that part. But, oh, maybe, don't fall off. But there you go. That's quick tips for your sound. We'll have a lot more coming, but I want to show you that quickly. We'll talk about gain. That's another tip to get better sound. Obviously, the farther this is back, the closer I get to it, the more I don't have to turn it up so much. So if I turned it down, the gain, the sensitivity of it, it wouldn't pick up so much of the ambient or the fan on my laptop. Obviously, the closer it is to me, it's not going to pick up the fan as much anyway because the fan's going to be farther back. So there's little tips like that. There are sound blankets we can pop up. And we'll be talking about that in a later Glitch Byte. But having said that, we'll be doing a whole mic comparison in the not too distant future. And that'll be hopefully talking about the MXL 770, comparing the older Yeti, because now it's made by Logitech instead of Blue. So we'll be talking about that. At the same time, we'll be talking about possibly trying to get in a pod mic or even the Zoom ZDM, right? ZDM1, which is a $80 version that's much like the pod mic, but $20 cheaper than instead of Rhodes. Might even bring in a Samsung Q2U just to give you a little comparison. So, and loop that through a Zoom live track so you can see what it's like even without a Rodecaster Pro. So you can save a couple $100 and maybe get the Zoom live track instead. But that's something you can look forward to in a future episode. We're still doing our our geek outs. That's our live Q&As. We do those every 2 weeks. Deciding if we're going to do one this weekend or probably just early next week. So keep an eye out for that. We'll decide on that in the next few days. So if you subscribe to our channel, which the best way to do that is to go here to that link below or hover over that with that QR code and say, yeah, I want to subscribe, and then ring the bell. Then it will notify you. You can also follow us on YouTube or all of the places. Just type at Glitch 2600. We would love to have you there. And if you have questions, always just type a Q and then type your question. We'll find it and bring it out on the next Geek Out. Again, that's that live Q&A, but we will answer your questions even if you're not live there. And we hope you had a great time. We go live and bring a new tip every Monday. You can count on one every week. We sometimes do extra, but you can count on one every Monday. And that's what we're here for, is to make your digital life a little bit easier and make technology a little less daunting. Well, I hope you had a great Monday. I had a great Monday, and we'll catch you on the next one.